There are six types of narcissism. I would say grandiose, which is the traditional, arrogant, pretentious, charming, charismatic, kind of shiny narcissist. That's your kind of prototype of the narcissist. The grandiose people actually often do get stuff done. They will talk a big game and they'll kind of do the big game. Then the second type of narcissist is the vulnerable narcissist. This is probably to me the most compelling form of narcissism because this is where you see the sullenness, the petulance, the passive aggression, the chronic victimhood, the social anxiety, the failure to launch. These are people who live in fantasies of the great things they're going to do, but they never do them. You should understand that they're vulnerable doesn't mean these are people are actually intimate and all vulnerable with you. It means that they themselves are vulnerable, but they don't actually take action. And they keep telling everybody, I'm going to do this project or this thing. And you know why I couldn't do it? Because that guy didn't give me the money. And that guy was scamming me. And that, everyone takes advantage of me. And that person stole my idea. That's the vulnerable. Then we have the malignant narcissism. The malignant narcissist is the most severe form of narcissism. And that's when we talk about stuff like the dark tetrad. And the dark tetrad is composed of narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, which is the willingness to take advantage of other people, and sadism. And I also believe paranoia sits in there too. So in malignant narcissism, we're talking about people who are more coercive, who are more menacing, who are more isolating. This feels a little bit more like psychopathy, but still narcissism. It's a severe form of narcissism. Then we have the communal narcissist. These are the folks that, all narcissists need validation. The communal narcissists are interesting because they get their validation by being perceived as saviors, rescuers, and do-gooders. So, for example, a cult leader would be a communal malignant narcissist. So take that, communal malignant narcissist. That would be, so these are like cocktails, right? These like you move every bit, put all of them together. So at the extreme, a communal malignant narcissist is a cult leader. But some communal narcissist could be a mother who does all the activities and the PTA and helps the little league and raises the money and goes home and screams at her kids. And is horrible and abuses her partner. On the surface, she looks like a saint among us. It's the person who walks around and everybody thinks are humanitarian, and people are like, no, I work for that non-profit. And they're like, it was actually a hellscape. When you look behind the curtain, you see horrible things. That's the communal narcissist. So they get validation by the sense of, look what a good person they are. They're rescuing puppies and they're doing this thing and they're raising all this money and they're so good. But behind the scenes, they're not. So it's not saying that people who do nice things are communal narcissists. They continue to have lack of empathy, entitlement, and all the other stuff. To recognize if a person is a narcissist, you look at them if they're being mean to other people. So like if I was public facing, you look like the best thing ever, but behind the scene is another story. So you're mean to your partner, you're mean to your family, you're mean to your people who work for you. You're consistently mean to the people who are behind the curtain. You're consistently sort of putting on a show in front of the curtain, but you're not consistent on both ways. Behind the curtain and in front of the curtain, you're completely different people. Then the fifth form is the self-righteous narcissist. Is judgmental, moralistic, rigid. They're often funky with money. This would be the kind of person who has so much money and someone in their family has a hardship. They had a job loss and then their kids, needs medical care. And they'll say, well, I didn't create this situation. So I guess you'll have to figure it out yourself. It feels like they have no heart, but there's also this really rigid, judgmental sense, and they judge people from the sense of, well, look at that all I built. I guess I must have worked hard. They'll never account for their luck or sometimes their absence of bad luck, that kind of thing. They will say, if they say dinner is at 6 and you show up at 6:30 because your kid got sick, they'll say, I'm sorry, you already ate. So it feels very rigid, cold, moralistic, miserly, obsessive. These are people who often workaholics and will little curl for how it would affect anyone. It's like there is workaholics out there who check in on other people, like, I'm going to make time for you, or once we are done, we are going to do a vacation when this is done, whatever. And they're communicating and people are aware, okay, they're going this, doing this, so we could buy the house or whatever. I don't think you can ever be self-righteous and healthy, because I think if you're self-righteous, you're like, I'm better than you. You'll even see self-righteous narcissism is some of these kinds of exercise zealots who are like, I wake up at 4 a.m. and then I milk my goat and I make a smoothie and then I do 1,000,000,000 crunches and run 10 billion miles and then I work and then I journal and then I this and then I that and then I sleep at 8. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, there is no other human being in your life. Like, how do you deal with a crying sister? I tell her to go to hell, drink more goat milk. And the reason I'm in shape and I'm going to live to be 900 years old is because I do all this and you don't. You lazy, awful person. That's self-righteous. It's lack of awareness of others. So that self-righteousness is sort of where the lack of empathy sits. So I don't think there is good self-righteousness. I don't think all self-righteous people are narcissistic, but many people said to me that self-righteous narcissism is really what happens in their family of origin. It was a parent, so there would be almost in this unrealistic expectation that the child would adhere to rigid, obsessive rules like, don't touch this, don't do this, don't sit there, eat like this. And so the kid would never get to be a kid. And then number 6 is neglectful narcissists. These are the people, they view everybody as objects, like a coffee cup, whatever, and they just neglect them until they need them. They don't give them attention, they don't attune to them. When a person around them is struggling, they don't care if it's a lack of empathy. But like, for example, a malignant or grandiose narcissist might actually get mad at something. Like, oh my gosh, like, why do you keep talking to me? And people in relationships with neglectful narcissists will say, I'll take it, because at least that person was listening. But people in these relationships with neglectful narcissists will literally feel like they're losing their minds because the person with them is literally not noticing them. Unless they need something, they're giving them the cold shoulder. They don't speak to them for days, whatever. They just don't notice. They don't care. They won't know. Like, you might say, like, at the biggest presentation of the year next week, they won't even ask. It's all about them, but in this weird way. They don't even take notice of other people. I've known people with this experience and they'll say, it's as though I didn't exist. But when I had the piece of information or something they needed, I suddenly existed. So you feel like a really neglected personal assistant.